Hey everybody, Madeline here to talk about Mars finally moving into the sign of Leo. It has been in the sign of Cancer since October. It did go into Leo for a while and then it went back into Cancer forever because it went into when it stopped when it was coming out of retrogradation, it stayed at about 17, 18 degrees Cancer for like 2 weeks. So this is like the longest run of Mars being in a sign for a long time. So now we're going to feel a lot of shift in the energies, especially if you're ruled by Mars, Scorpios, or Aries. And of course, in whatever house or planets we have in our charts that are Aries and Scorpio are houses. Um, but also your Leo house, obviously, because Mars is going to be there. So the energy of Leo Mars is great. It's a really good positive energy. It's much more, Mars likes to be in a fire sign. It's creating a trine to the other fire sign. So it's a sort of very positive energy for Mars to be in. And Mars likes to be courageous and bold and to take initiatives, and Leo is the leader, and it's courageous, and it faces its fears and takes bold actions. And then you also have the shadow aspect, of course, is also possible, especially at the beginning of this transit, because first of all, when a planet shifts signs, that's when the energies are the strongest in that sign, for instance, at the very beginning of that degree. So you really feel it very strong. Then it sort of mellows out, basically. But it's opposing Pluto. So there's going to be, and then on the 21st, the sun's going to come in and square that, which is going to be very difficult for some people if you have planets at the early degrees of fixed signs. So that's kind of a bit of a dangerous or accident-prone type of a transit or crisis. Health could very well be in the picture if it's hitting one of your personal planets. So that is a heads up. And in general, I would recommend for people to lay low that day in general. Um, Back to Mars, Leo. So Leo, I grew up in Africa. So I would go safaring with my dad. So I would be in the wild. I've seen lions in the wild. And I also know how dangerous they are because they are very bold. They're not afraid of humans. They they're very kind of sneaky too. They pop up on people when you least expect it. They're very camouflaged. And I've seen pictures of people being eaten by lions. So they're not afraid of humans. And other wild animals are. And so that is the energy of the lion. They're bold, they're courageous. And the shadow aspect is you could get into conflicts and step too boldly into a territory that you're really not supposed to, or actually full on like eat somebody. I'm kidding. But anyway, the pride aspect is an issue too with the Leo Mars. So you want to try not to let your pride get in the way of causing pride issues, causing conflicts, which if that's happening, there's a good chance if you've got Leo in your chart that that's probably what's going on. So, yeah, so let's pop the chart because one thing I really have been liking to do lately is to find the minute that the planet moves into its new sign. And you can, it's like a birth chart. So there's Mars. We're going to go to hours here. I think it's at about this evening sometime. So we're going to go all the way till it goes into Leo here. And there it is. And that's going to happen at 9:48 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So then what I like to do is I like to look at the entire chart of that minute, that second. I'm giving a birth chart reading for this transit for the entire duration that Mars will be in the sign of Leo. And it looks pretty darn positive, except for that build to the square of the sun. And the opposition to Pluto does indicate an intense month of most squares are Mars. So there's ego clashes and egos going down too, egos burning away. So And with Pluto in the opposition, you're facing fears and you're coming and overcoming a lot. This is a strong transit. We really overcome some big challenges that have been holding us back. We really overcome and we face our fears about things too, which is a lot of that lion, that courageous lion coming in and combating its fear and not letting it stop him. So, but at the same time, it's, um, at this point, Mars is not exactly squaring the sun, so it's positive that it's slightly off. And the sun is at 28 degrees, making a very favorable trine to the moon in Sagittarius. So that's going to have an influence on Mars in Leo, is the fact that the moon, the feminine, is also fired up. She's in the sign of Sagittarius, which is adventurous, go-getter for the month. I mean, this is a fired up month or cycle, Mars period in Leo, which is Leo. Mars moves into Virgo in June. Um, but I'm going to do reports on the dates for that soon. Um, so let me just do one thing. I always forget to do this. I don't want to use the cardinal points. Okay, so um, the sun is squaring the Leo Mars, so we are going to have ego clashes, but there's healing involved in it because it is making a trine to the moon, and the moon is in fired up energy of Sagittarius. So the moon is the feminine is not in any sort of weaky little timid timid place, as it were. So the subconscious, the feminine represents the subconscious. So it's like the subconscious is willing to it's squaring the nodes. So it's willing to sort of overcome any sort of subconscious barriers. That's what these ego things, these ego squares do, is we overcome a subconscious, we overcome ego, the way that our ego is preventing us from being on our destined path, the way the ego is getting in the way. So the universe has to come in and clash with it so you stop going, letting the ego run the show, which it wants to do. So, so the moon is going to square the nodes, which would indicate that there's an emotional breakthrough involving the ego where you're now changing directions because of the shift. So in this period that Mars is in Leo, we're going to see a shift. We're going to see bold actions around our destiny, and we're going to feel fired up and okay to do it. And we're going to get our ego out of the way, our pride and ego out of the way, and we're going to really take some bold steps to tilt in the direction of our destiny with our egos out of the way and our emotional baggage with that moon squaring the nodes, which is sort of like ready or not, we're going to be, we're, if the subconscious is in the energy of Sagittarius, it's faith, that's in faith action. So it's squaring the nodes, which means it's, it's, it's tilting its destiny because of a newfound faith. So it's willing to take the risk. It's willing to step into a spiritual destiny or its true calling, overcoming a fear, an emotional ego-based fear type of a thing, if that makes sense. A subconscious emotional issue that causes ego defense, which puts you out of alignment from your destiny. I hope that's clear. So, and the moon is opposing, well, no, that's a really wide opposition, but the moon is definitely squaring the nodes. So we're going to see a change in plans, changes in directions, or just the playings out of, like, for instance, the eclipses brought a lot of shifts in our Aries, which is Mars house. And so we those shifts occur, and then we now go into action mode to implement those shifts. And we also, while we're doing that, we're coming face to face from with some of our fears and our ego issues, our control issues, because ultimately, I don't think we really have control. We have control in how we perceive what's happening, in that we align with it willingly, in that we emotionally are find balance and internal peace with it. Um, what else can I do about that? That we see the bigger picture. So we're in our higher mind, our heart. The higher mind connects with the heart. That's Hermes. Mercury, it's closer to God, the sun. So it knows the higher perspective of things, which gives you a better perspective about what's happening. It's the forest it's seeing the forest rather than the trees, which then puts you in a positive place because the forest is looking great right now. We are headed to a really great era, the golden era. So we're just clearing up. We're shifting our destinies to our more aligned soul paths, our dharmic purposes. Our egos are going to get perhaps pride clashed with that square to the sun and Pluto, based in some sort of deep trauma fear where the moon, could fire us up there in that fiery energy, but it is trining the sun, so it has a very positive outcome. And don't forget the Mars is trining the nodes too. So it's a really wonderful period because it's taking our future by the balls, basically, and being courageous and stepping into these new paradigm, this brand new paradigm that we're all about to step into. So I'll stop there, and I hope that was helpful and clear. Namaste.